But for now, let's get a feel of what it's like to step foot into a traditional pub.
Amazing. It feels amazing. Hello, my name is Megan Ruth. I'm a Canadian living in London, England, and I react to British things. Welcome to another episode of I found an interesting video on my homepage that I want to watch, so I'm just going to react to it live for you right now. Yeah. In this case, it is a video entitled The Great British Pub Culture Explained. Now, I've been here for almost 5 years, and I have to say one of my favorite things is the pub culture, so I'm looking forward to reacting to this video. Please explain to me the great British pub culture, even though I already kind of know about it because I've been living here for 5 years.
One of the great things about England is pubs.
My whole love of journalism and debating came from just observing people in the pub.
The Great British Pub has been the backdrop for debate, conflict, and even love. A place open for all, from geezers to hipsters to ladies' nights out.
You all mix together as one, and that's how it should be.
It is the backbone of British culture.
Go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
So today
Okay, something that I've noticed about British pubs though is that there are so many pubs with the same name. Like there's so many, the Winchesters or what's another one? Something to do with horse. The Horse, and now I can't think of any, but you know, there's just a lot of pubs with the same names, and it gets confusing because when you say what pub do you want to go to, and they say, oh, the Queen's Head, and you're like, but which Queen's Head? Because there's so many Queen's Head. Like, I feel like there should be a rule that if one pub has a name, that pub should be the only one with that name, and no other pub should have that name, because I feel like that would just be a lot easier. Yeah.
we're going to explore this fascinating culture. We're going to go through its history, its controversies, and whether it's going to survive in the future. This is
Ooh,
the story
I hope it
of
survives.
the Great British Pub.
The British have a famous reserve when it comes to being sociable. And everything about the pub is micro-engineered to break down those social barriers and to enable people to talk to each other.
Pub is short for public house, with its origins dating as far back as 43 AD to 410 AD, and it came from the Romans as they occupied Britain. However,
Wow.
pubs as we know them today would really become popular in the Victorian era. They were communal meeting points that typically the working class could go to and enjoy themselves. Pubs fall into a few different categories, and they have changed a lot over the years, but let's start with three basic ones. Firstly, you have the traditional pub. These are often housed in like historic British buildings. Typically, there'll be laws and regulations over how you can change the building's exterior as a way to preserve the culture. So this means
Really?
there's very low ceilings and very low doorways, because apparently people were smaller back then. A lot of the interior is made out of wood. There's wooden beams everywhere. There's usually an open fireplace, and it's designed to feel like a nice, homely, cozy living room.
These are my favorite type of pubs. The older, the traditional, the pubs that you know, that have been there a while, that have seen a lot of things. If those walls could talk, let me tell you. But yeah, those are my favorite ones.
When it comes to drinks, they'll serve a range of beers, ales, ciders, and they might even offer traditional pub food, which we would call pub grub. Now let's move on to the
love me some
next
pub
pub,
food.
and that is the country pub.
And every country village needs a country pub.
Now, as the name suggests, a country pub is far out in the sticks, way away from what they would refer to as city folk. Why this is different from a traditional pub is that traditional pubs can exist in very urban areas.
Oh, yeah.
The atmosphere of a traditional pub relies on its surrounding area. It might be a bit more fun, a bit more lively, and there might be, God forbid, young people in there. Whereas the country
Young
pub
people.
is quite the opposite. The country pub is more quiet, more cozy, more chill. It caters to the locals who will look at outsiders with a little bit of scorn. The locals have typically lived in that town for generations and generations.
And then we got their children's children and their grandchildren, and they still recognise you and still know you.
Does she not have
Good
teeth?
night, Miss Babes. Good night, Sam. Good night, John. Good night, Teddy.
And then lastly, we can throw in brewery taps. A brewery tap is a pub that's attached to a brewery. They brew a beer on site and they sell it there. And these pubs tend to look a bit more industrial and are more used as a marketing tool for that beer. But for now, let's get a feel of what it's like to step foot into a traditional pub.
Amazing. It feels amazing.
It's a Wednesday, you finish work, it was a bit stressful, and so what do? You of course venture down to the pub. Which pub will it be today? Will it be the famous Cock, the Red Lion, the Horse's mouth. And so you approach the front door of the pub and you push open the door to be greeted by another door for some reason. These two doors. Instantly you hear Mickey and the boys sat in their usual spot, shouting about some political thing that they read in the Sun. Listen here, boys, you know what I'd do if I was in charge, if I was Prime Minister? Yeah, what's that there, Mickey? I'd get the whole lot of them, take them outside, and I'd shoot them. Yeah, that's about right, Mickey. In the corner of Mickey's eye, he sees you as you walk in. The whole table's attention turns. Here comes trouble. You exchange pleasantries for a couple of seconds, and then Mickey, who'll escort you to the bar to go get a drink. These particular gentlemen are who you would refer to as the geezers.
Geezers!
Trying to wind me up?
I love that slang.
Fucking serious.
These are working class lads. They could be anywhere from the age of like 25 to 55 really. Might be a plumber, a sparky, a carpet fitter. You know, proper man's jobs. They're not going to be in the HR department working in diversity and inclusion. Now what's very interesting about the geezer is that the geezer exists within all British men. No matter how middle class you are, whether you shop at M&S or Waitrose, the infectious charisma and energy of the geezer will undoubtedly rub off on you at some point in the night.
Who's that? Well, this is... What's your name?
Oh, In-Betweeners.
Steve. He'll be joining
I
us.
react to that, by the way.
Usually around sort of beer 6, maybe 7. You'll leave your table, you head to the toilet, you might wobble there because you're getting a little bit intoxicated. And as you go for a piss, the door will bang wide open. Mickey walks right in, stands next to you, and he turns to you and he says, "You watched the game last night, mate?" To which you'll panic because last night you're at yoga and you need to now come up with a cover story. And so you will reply, not me, mate. Mrs. was having none of it. You know this, mate. But this brings us on to our next pub goer, middle class Michael.
What a nice pub. Yes, it's a lovely pub.
Now, middle class Michael, he probably works in IT or marketing or something like that, an office job. He's come from work, so he's wearing his nice smart shirt, but he's undone a button, he's letting loose. He'll be somewhere in his late 20s to 30s. He probably lives in central London or some kind of city. But Michael, too, is welcome into the pub. In fact, all of his friends are welcome to come in and speak at an appropriate volume. Until about his fifth burg, where he starts to find this feeling, this foreign feeling, which is called self-confidence, and he'll start speaking louder and louder until they're throwing up in the toilet. Next up you have the old boys, aka the locals. These are men from the age of 60 to about really any day prior to their death. They're drinking proper drinks, you know, they're drinking stout, Guinness. They
That's
all
my drink.
dressed like farmers.
I drink
they love
Guinness.
Jeremy Clarkson. They hate young people.
Wait a minute. Am I an old man? Am I supposed to be an old man because I drink Guinness? They just said they hated young people. Am I supposed to hate young people even though technically I am a young person? I'm really confused.
These are the main demographic of any good country pub.
And we're here in Killarney because we've been invited by a very special character. I hear he's a local legend. Sam, how are you? Good, my dear.
But then you get a few little special guests, such as tourists, who are typically American. They're wearing some bright t-shirts, bum bag to keep all their things in. And they're saying something about how authentic this place is. It's so quaint. It's so British. And then you get families. Oh, I forgot to say you have the alcoholic who's sat in a corner, murmuring to himself. It's a pretty sad sight. But then finally you have one other group that will sometimes show their face in a pub. And that is women.
Hey!
Sometimes. Pub is that pre-World War II, to see a woman in a pub was a very rare sight. It was frowned upon. It was a cultural taboo.
Do you object to me being served alongside you here, sir?
I think for myself that the place for women is the saloon bar or the lounge.
Why? It was kind of like that so that husbands and wives could be away from each other, so that men could do men things, say naughty words. But nowadays you get what is called a ladies' night. Now this is the one night that ladies have decided they're going to go to the pub. They've spent 3 months over WhatsApp, organising, arguing, falling out over this night. It's a big night for them.
Yeah, I mean that does happen.
A birthday, and they will arrive at the pub dressed in their skin-tight dresses, drinking gin and tonic, holding their purse. They're loud, they're passionate, they're dramatic. You'll have one in the corner crying her eyes out, she's staring at her phone, texting away furiously. Another being kicked out by the bouncers as she vomits over herself. It's quite a sight to see, you know, an image that I'm sure the suffragettes never imagined would happen. Progress. And so what I'm hoping that you understand is that the pub is really a place for everyone.
You with all your mates and you're all having a laugh and you're all doing everything. It seems to be like the catalyst to make a good time.
However, over the years, things have changed a lot.
Now, I'm worried about the closure of pubs.
More than 150 pubs
have closed their doors for good in England and Wales.
They face a cost of living crisis head on.
Now look, it's never been easy for pubs when it comes to laws. It's been like this tug of war between the government and pubs for a very long time. And that is for the simple fact that alcohol is a bit troublesome.
Yeah.
In 1552, the Ale House Act was passed, where pubs would be required a license from a local authority in order to be able to sell beer. In 1830, the Beer House Act came along. New laws would pop up, like a legal drinking age. Also, opening hours were pretty tight. But by 1960s, the laws were relaxed somewhat. So from here to about the 2000s, things were flourishing. Having a simple bevy with the boys had evolved. Now you could walk into a pub and there might be things like pool tables, dartboards.
Oh, I love a good
You go
dartboard.
to any good pub and there will be locals who are insane at pool and darts. They'll come in with their own cases, their own sticks, their own table if they could. And if they get good enough, they can enter professional leagues. They can become professional athletes. I mean, take Phil Taylor, for instance, a professional darts player. Look at him.
You could be
He
a
is
professional
your
darts
typical
player.
pub goer. But look, if darts and pool isn't what you're into, there's something for everyone. You might be more into board games. So you go, you grab a board game in this box that looked like it survived World War II. Or you could attend a quiz night.
Town of Leicester
Oh, quiz.
is the birthplace of
Love a
which
quiz.
mass murderer?
But really, it would be in
Pub quizzes are my
2007
favorite.
where things would take a massive turn. Where pub culture as we knew it would be gone forever.
A countrywide smoking ban went into effect in the UK
Yeah.
on Sunday.
The smoking ban. When smoking ciggies were banned from pubs, this was a major issue in Britain.
Make a place for the smokers and a place for the non-smokers that's segregated off. Not herders out here like bloody prostitutes standing on this corner.
See, I'm a non-smoker. I grew up in a very anti-smoking family, so I hate the smell of cigarettes. And I'm not mad about this. I think nobody should be smoking indoors because it just affects other people's health. Like, you can smoke in your house. Smoking inside in commercial buildings is just disgusting. And yeah, so that's my 2 cents.
Is what you feel like when you're standing here with a cigarette.
I'm not joking, this was as big of a deal as Brexit, Trump, trans athletes.
You're kidding.
And this is where the government had proposed that we were no longer allowed to smoke cigarettes inside of a pub. And there was uproar from landlords to pub goers. Where the classic atmosphere of a pub, you know, where you open the door and a plume full of smoke would come out like a dragon's
Disgusting.
lair, would now be replaced with breathable air. And we couldn't
Breathable
have that.
air.
And it's true, it was part of the atmosphere, but ultimately the ban passed and you had to go outside and smoke cigarettes.
I'm very
From this
grateful
point
for
on,
that.
Traditional pub culture only really got worse and worse. With the rise of social media and home media, people didn't really need to leave the house to get entertainment. On top of this, the younger generation were, God forbid, drinking less. And there's been
Drinking
a
less?
decline in pubs throughout England since 2000.
Yes, boys, how you doing? Are you alright? Yeah.
On top of this, alcohol is easier and cheaper to get a hold of from supermarkets. We, as society, have a greater variety of things to do. You don't just have to sit in a pub. You could go get a coffee. You could go for a meal. And so as pubs become less popular and the cost of living goes up, there has been a major decline in pub culture across Britain. But look, it's not all bad news. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is Wetherspoons.
Oh, God.
Today I want to talk about one of the great British institutions.
Oh, I hate that I love Wetherspoons.
Now, Wetherspoons isn't a traditional pub. It's kind of this pub-bar hybrid. It's like a super chain that exists all across Britain, where it takes our favourite elements of traditional pubs, the way they look, the way they feel, combine that with incredibly cheap beer and food, and it attracts a more wider demographic of young people and older people. And I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that Wetherspoons, or Spoons as we abbreviate it to, has kind of become a British institution in and of itself. It's the start of every good night out. It's the place we love to hate, but inside we all have a soft spot for it. It's still got all of the fights, all of the political debates. The owner, Tim Martin, literally did a Brexit tour around Spoons. And it's even got...
Hate him.
Personally, I think as a society, tradition is really important. It's what makes culture so unique and fascinating. It makes people want to come and experience them. So next time you're at your local boozer, grab yourself a pint, take a sip and look around for a second. And appreciate everything that's gone in to the Great British Pub.
A lot to take in from that video. There's a lot to take in. I do agree with him. I think young people are drinking less. I am one of those people. I think that's less about my generation, more about me not being a wild 20-something anymore. I think there is a movement as studies are coming out more and more about how unhealthy alcohol is. I think younger generations will continue to drink less. I do think there's some truth to that. But all that being said, I do like a good pub. And I hate that I love Spoons. Spoons is just one of those things, it's like, I hate it, I hate it. I wish I never went to Spoons, but it's also very cheap and I live in London. And, you know, it's just this constant battle within my head. All right, well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think about pubs? Do you think that there's going to be a decline, a continuous decline over the next generations? Let me know what you think. Before I go, I just want to quickly shout out my patrons. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me. My Patreon is a place where you get early access to my videos, my complete unedited, uncensored reaction videos, and patron shoutouts if you're a top tier patron. So thank you, Stephen, Anthony, Ben, Stanley, and Joseph. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time. Bye. Mwah.